In this lesson, we'll bring in vegetation for the midground of our image and learn how to adjust both the color and luminance of each. All right, great. So in the last lesson, we finished up adding this this dilapidated station wagon that has kind of run into one of the windows of this building here, just adding to the feel of abandonment. Now, again, you can use that exact same image we used in the previous lesson if you wanted to maybe add some wrecked cars a little closer to the camera. But you saw how much work we put into painting this particular vehicle in, and it's that far into the distance. Think about how much work you're going to need to do if you start to bring these wrecked vehicles even closer to the camera. So there's going to be a lot more time spent on that. So now the midground of our image, early on we talked in our notes about putting in some larger bodies of vegetation. Maybe this one here that is the closer one to the camera, and then maybe one a little further back right around in this area. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and start off again using some photographic vegetation here. So I've got these three images, and you'll find all three of these in the foliage folder, which is inside your images folder of your project files. So let's go ahead and start off with maybe this one right here. So we'll just zoom in, and kind of what I'm looking at here is this low-lying vegetation right along here, right along the grass line of the image. So let's come in and grab our lasso tool. And I'm just going to come in and grab some of that here. Kind of this line right along in here. And we'll come down into the grass. I'm going to get a little bit of the grass in my selection, but I'm not too concerned with that. We'll end up taking that out more than likely. So this is kind of the first piece we're going to steal, and we'll just go ahead and, again, use our Move tool by hitting V on our keyboard, and just drag that over and drop it right into our image here. So this is that piece that we just grabbed, and you'll notice here that I had my foliage group selected. So I'm just going to drag this down into the photo group that we created in that previous lesson. So we've got this first piece, and it is now in that foliage group and the photo group within that. So let's go ahead and grab another piece here. Now, in this image right here, I really like these trees. You know, we had some low-lying vegetation that is going to be a little bit lower in height. Looking at our image here, we talked a little bit about doing kind of a body of water that borders up against this. So in my mind, I've got this low-lying vegetation that's going to run right up to the edge of our body of water. Now, I want some bigger stuff behind that, so I'm going to go ahead and look at these trees right here to do that. So this is going to be a little bit of a challenge, though, because there is grass that is behind these trees that I'm not going to need. So we'll just come in and make our selection here. There's also a road back there, so we want to be really careful that we don't end up getting that road, or we end up removing the road from the final application of these trees in our image. Just come down here, grab something like that. Let's go ahead and modify our selection a little. I'm going to take some of this out right here, maybe some of this out right here. Some of this stuff we're definitely not going to need. We can just kind of hold down the Alt key and just remove that from our selection. Don't need to be perfect. We're going to take another step once we get this over into our image to remove this. So there's that road I was talking about, kind of in the background, right along here. So we're going to take special care to make sure that doesn't show up, because that's definitely not going to fit into our image. So let's go ahead and grab our Move tool again by hitting V, and we'll just drag this over and drop it into our image. Now you'll notice here right off the bat that these two chunks of vegetation are a little bit different in color. The ones that I just drug in, these right here, are warm in color, while these are a little more cool right here. We're going to take some steps to fix that here in a little bit, but let's take these trees we just brought in, and I want this tree to be kind of a little bit closer to the building. So let's come over and we'll just edit, transform, and flip horizontal. Let's drag this in, and let's drag it behind the low-lying vegetation. All right, great. So now obviously we need to adjust the scale of this vegetation here. So let's start maybe with this one here. We'll just free transform and hold the shift key while we shrink this down some. And I'm going to shrink it down to about there and hit enter and move over to this one. I think this one also needs to be shrunk down some as well. So we'll go ahead and free transform this one. And I'm going to bring this one, let's see what we got behind. Zoom in a little bit here. Let's see, drop that layer opacity down a little bit. I'm going to bring that let's go ahead and shrink it down even a little bit more. That'll work for right now. And let's go ahead and grab this particular layer. And again, we'll free transform that. Again, that tree just seems massive, plus it's blocking our station wagon. So we'll come over here and shrink that down a bit more. I'm going to try and get these trees to tuck nice and neatly behind this low-lying vegetation here. Maybe something like that. I'm liking the look of that. That feels a little bit better in terms of proportions and the scale of those trees to the building. Now we've got some issues with these trees. Let's go ahead and bring in our foreground, or rather the other midground trees over here on the right before we start to work on these. So we'll come over here and let's grab this final image right here. Now there's a lot of vegetation in this image, so we need to just kind of pick and choose what we want. I see this nice bit of trees that kind of follows this line right here that I'd like to bring into my image. So I'm going to make that selection just by dragging the lasso tool around those trees. Sort of like that. Now I don't want whatever that weird stumpy tree is that's covered in ivy. And we're going to have to take the girl out of the image as well. These are actually pictures from a friend of mine's vacation to Hawaii. So we've got the occasional person that shows up in some of these images that I need to take out. But let's go ahead and make that selection here. And we'll just, again, use our move tool to bring it over. And we'll drop it right in here. All right, great. So that's in place. We'll go ahead and just hide that one for right now. Drag it to the top and hide it. And let's go back over here and start focusing on these. Now, we talked a little bit about the temperature of these trees, and they really don't match. The temperature of this low-lying shrubbery is a little bit cooler, and this top one is a little bit warmer. So now the top one is also really saturated for the image that we're working with. So the first thing I want to do here is maybe adjust the saturation a little bit. Now we could do that with an adjustment layer if we wanted to, but I'm not too concerned with that. I'm just going to come over here and do an image adjustment for hue saturation. Now this is going to be a destructive change. We're destroying the pixels by doing this. So keep in mind that if you follow this workflow, you'd have to use the step back command to undo this. And if you're not real confident in this change, it's not a good workflow to implement regularly. It's always better to use an adjustment layer if you have any doubt in your mind. So I'm just going to come in here and adjust the saturation a bit. Sort of like that. Just kind of zoom out on it. Don't want to desaturate it too much. We'll do that there. Now, I went ahead and applied that, but if we wanted to adjust the temperature overall of this image as well, we could do that from hue saturation as well here. So let's bring that back up. We'll go ahead and do another hue saturation. You can always use the Control-U keyboard shortcut to access this adjustment. So now the hue slider up here can be used to adjust the temperature as well, kind of globally for this particular layer. So now, I want to be really careful we don't go too crazy with it. You can see we're getting a little warmer there, and we're getting a little cooler if we drag it the other direction. So that seems to match fairly well with the low-lying vegetation below it. So I'll hit OK. And now we need to sort of work on the edges of these trees here. Now we could come in with our eraser tool and maybe grab one of our leaf brushes here. We've got some down here, or we've got some up here. Or we could come in and use a selective color method, which I'm going to show you here in just a moment. But I'm going to work on kind of the silhouette a little bit of this just by simply erasing back with my leaf brush to take out some of these areas that I really don't like. Now, keep in mind that the leaf brushes, a lot of them are implementing the pressure-sensitive brush dynamics. So if you want to be completely opaque in erasing away some of these border elements, then you need to press pretty hard on your tablet, or else you'll leave little bitty stragglers in terms of pixels that are somewhat transparent. So we can come in and erase away like that, kind of working on this top edge of the trees here, getting some of that background out of the image that was there in the original image these trees came from. There's a little bitty hut or something like that there, all of which going away. Now this is a little bit tedious, but we're going to handle kind of the bottom edge a little differently here. So I'm going to come over here and we'll erase to right about there. Now, notice that like the area behind the trees that we have selected for the most part is all kind of one general color. We've got this lighter green in here, with the exception of some of these areas where it looks like the tree's casting a shadow, which we can come in and erase that away. But most of the other areas behind these trees that we don't want are kind of this muddy light green color. So let's come up here and we'll go to Select and Color Range. Now it's going to bring up this crazy dialog, which you can see that it dumped this red color in my canvas. That's because our selection preview is set to Quick Mask. Let's go ahead and set it to None really quickly here, because I'm going to come in and using my eyedropper, I'm going to sample an area. So let's sample this area right here. Now I'm going to switch this to something like maybe black matte, and you can see all of the pixels that are being picked up by the area that I clicked. You can come in and change this to something like white matte if you prefer that, or again Quick Mask, which I had it on before, or you can set it to None, and you can use this little thumbnail area right here to sort of preview this. So basically this color range is helping us to make a selection based on a range of color. We can adjust this fuzziness right here, which will sort of allow us to come in and kind of blur out the selection a little bit. Maybe we just go ahead and switch to one of these modes like grayscale. You can see here that we can make the selection a little more forgiving, or we can clamp down on exactly the value that we clicked, or the color that we clicked. So I'm going to go ahead and clamp that down. Let's use maybe about 20 or 25 or so. And use that black matte. Well, I kind of prefer the Quick Mask method because it allows me to see the image through the area that I'm selecting. So that's telling me that we don't really have enough selected. So let's make that a little bit more fuzzy, maybe around 35 or 40, and we'll hit OK. So what that's done is it's selected several areas on this layer, and you can see that based on these little marching ants. Now, do we want to delete all of these? No, we don't want to take all of these pixels out. If I hit Control H, we can hide the selection, and you can see that a lot of the areas that were picked up on are areas on the tops of the trees where there's a highlight. So we want to be really careful about how we erase using this. So let's go ahead and, again, we're going to use this destructive method of erasing just simply because this is only an image that I brought in from another image. So we can kind of use this to come in and begin to erase away portions that are only the color that we selected. And you can see that I didn't quite make it fuzzy enough because if I come in and maybe select a soft round opacity here, something besides a leaf brush, you can see that we still have this edge right here. So I might want to come in and do that again and do it and make it a little more fuzzy. So if we maybe select this color here and increase that fuzziness some. hide that selection again. So this might work out for you to come in and kind of remove some of these areas of grass that are behind these trees. Personally, I kind of like using the eraser tool and just grabbing a tree brush here, or rather a leaf brush, and just coming in because these leaf brushes do a pretty good job of simulating kind of the edge of a leafy tree. So if we were to come in, it just makes it quick work to come in and kind of clean up this silhouette. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to all three of these clusters of trees that we've brought into our image here. We brought one in over here that's hidden. This one's going to need a little bit more work in terms of the temperature as well. It's also a pretty cool cluster of vegetation. So I'm going to do that, and we'll probably use the clone stamp to take the young woman out of the image as well. So, but at this point, we've kind of placed these mid-ground elements, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time blending these into the environment just yet, because I want to begin bringing in the body of water that we're also going to include. So let's go ahead and get started with that in the next lesson.